Good morning, everyone. This is Britt Simon. So I thought I'd jump online and take some questions if any of you are around that would like to ask any questions. I posted, I should say, apologies for not going live last weekend. I was camping. I didn't have anything like the internet that I would need to go live. So I didn't. But I did post 3 videos this week on topics that you may find interesting. So please do make sure you go back and catch those if you haven't already watched them. And let me just say at the beginning, thanks to all that have been giving likes and subscribing to the channel. Do appreciate it. I think the subscriptions part is very important for the channel to get out information, which is good information. And so if you can, please make sure that you are subscribed to the channel if you're not already. Always give a thumbs up, like on the videos if you can. Please hit that button straight away. But anyway, let's see if we've got some questions. Okay, first question here. DV24 is it ended? Look, the DV 2024 will end officially on September 30th. The visas are not all given out yet, right? There are 47,250 visas have been issued. And so there are around about 6,000 to 7,000 more that they could issue before they start running into the cap. They issued 2,500 visas this week. So they're running at a high pace. There's a possibility, or I don't think it's a very big possibility, but there is a possibility that they could exhaust the visas before the end of the month. But DV 2024 needs to finish its timeline. I mean, it will finish on September 30th, possibly a few days before. But I honestly don't think they will stop it with just a few days to go. I can't quite see that happening. Part of the math depends on how many 221G cases they can clear. And that will happen over the next week or two. We'll see probably a flood of 221G cases starting to clear and get issued. So we'll see how that goes, right? In terms of additional interviews, that's the other thing people might wonder about. You've got to understand it's really too late to be sending out additional 2NLs now. Let's say you got a 2NL now, right? I heard from someone the other day in Sydney. They were going to be at Sydney, and they were worried about an interview in October because they weren't sure of the date, etc. And they have to book flight tickets and all that sort of thing. A lot of people don't live around the corner from the US Embassy, right? So they don't send out 2NLs with such short notice as the next 2 to 3 weeks. It doesn't happen, right? And so you got to understand scheduling is probably over. DV 2024 processing, meaning interviews, will continue for until the end of the month, and hopefully the visas will last and they won't cut that off early. We'll have to wait and see. Okay. So that covers questions like this and similar questions that I'm seeing there. Also should cover questions like that. Mumbai industry, is there any magical chance? No. Again, if you're not already scheduled, you're probably not going to be scheduled. So for people that are not scheduled already in DV 2024, then yeah, you can probably start to come to terms with the fact that you probably are not going to get an interview, which is normal. That happens every year. And if you have noticed, they selected 143,000 people for 55,000 visas. It was always obvious that some people were going to miss out, right? And it's not fun to be one of those people, I know, but nevertheless, that is the nature of the process that you were involved in. Okay. Okay. Didn't receive an appointment for interview 2024. Yeah, you won't get it. Thanks for the relentless efforts. You're welcome. Very grateful for it done. You're very welcome. How many visas still left for DV 2024? Let me show you the data actually. let's have a quick look at Zarthisius's page from last night. I'll show you what I mean about how many visas are actually issued. Okay, present, share screen, entire screen, that one. Okay, this is the data that Zarthisius posted last night, right? So it shows the number of visas issued in each region. 19,646 in Africa, plus the 327 there, because if you know what that AP process is, or AP rather, administrative processing, that is when they're printing the visas, right? So those people are really issued also. So 327 on top of that, basically 20,000 people in Africa have already had their visas. And that's not at the quota yet for Africa. The quota is about 24,000. So Africa's doing well, doing pretty well. They've really pushed that. They've scheduled a lot of people. 31,600 people got scheduled in Africa. That's a lot. Please, let's not come out with any bullshit about racism against Africa and all that shit that I normally hear at this time of year, because that really is just bullshit. And it shows a lack of understanding of simple math, frankly. But yeah, 16,500 cases were scheduled in Africa, compared to EU, which was 8,800. So almost they have to schedule almost twice as many cases in Africa, and EU is only 3,000 behind, right? So it just shows that's proof of a couple of things. Number one, the derivative rate in Africa is lower than the derivative rate in EU by a long way. It's 1.75 people for every case in Africa, whereas it's 2.25 for every case in EU, right? So firstly, there is a higher derivative rate. Secondly, there is a better chance of approval on EU cases, because documentation is better. The systems that record birth, deaths, and so on are better. There's less document fraud and so on, right? So and that's just the way it is, right? So also the no-shows rate is less in EU as well. So various factors mean that in order to issue a lot more visas in Africa, as the quota suggests, they have to schedule a lot more cases. It's a lot more work for KCC, and people that talk about racism each year don't understand those simple points. EU, so Africa in theory could get about another 4,000 visas in theory. EU could get about another 3,000 visas in theory to be within their quota. Asia is about 1,000 away from being done. And Oceania is over their quota already. They've already had 1,030. That's exceeding their quota. They're already taking visas from the other regions. And the same thing in South America. But in total, we have 46,527 issued plus 725. So that's about 47,250, roughly. And so 47,250 is the number of visas issued. There are still 12,000 people who are ready for interview, but many of those are no-shows from previous months. And so there's probably about 5,000 to 6,500 people, maybe 6,000, we'll say 6,000 people left for interviewing in September. And there's 4,500 people in 221G globally, right? So what we'll see is this number, this 12,400 is going to go down significantly. It'll probably end the year on about 6,000 or 7,000, right? There'll be some cases that never change from ready, thousands of them, right? And then the 221G number, I expect that number to start dropping in the next 2 weeks, because those 221G cases should be starting to be cleared now. And hopefully people will be getting emails and calls from their embassy saying, hey, come on down, your 221G has cleared and we need your passport to stamp the visa inside, right? Good luck. I hope that happens for many of you. 69,859 people so far have been scheduled for the year. If you listen to any of my data that I talked about a year ago, I said the magic number was 70,000. I told you it was 70,000. 70,000 it is, all bar a few, right? That's kind of a magic number. They have to schedule 70,000 people in order to issue the 55,000 visas. That's just how it works. So we can consistently see that year to year. Okay, so hopefully that's an interesting update for you. That's how many visas are left. That's certainly covered that in detail. Okay, case number is current in September. We didn't receive interview paper. Yeah, I'm sorry, it's not going to happen. There were a lot of people like that. If you watch one of the videos I had posted this week, they had, I think it was 35,000 people that they could interview right now that are current for interview. They could interview those people. And KCC staff said, and I think, frankly, this is fairly poor form. So KCC, the director of KCC, the new director, wrote, yeah, we've got 35,000 people ready for interview. And if the embassy capacity is available, then we could schedule those cases for interview. That's actually a bit of a white lie, because KCC know damn well that they're about to exhaust visas, right? That they will hit the cap before the end of the year, most likely. Once you factor in the adjustment of status cases, which they clearly know about, right? Because it was in the same declaration. And so to pretend from KCC's perspective that they could just go and schedule 35,000 people if only the embassies had the capacity, that's bullshit. We've got emails from the embassies where the embassies are saying the embassies' response is KCC have told us that they're not scheduling any more cases for DV 2024. So the embassies are telling us what KCC are really telling them. And KCC, on the other hand, have published this declaration pretending that they could schedule 35,000 people, which is nonsense. They couldn't. There are not enough visas. I mean, yes, there is also not enough capacity, but there isn't enough visas. So why the hell would they do that? Simply to then cancel the appointments later? That's it's very silly. I thought that was a disappointing part of the that declaration. Frankly, they need to be more honest and more transparent in the way that they communicate to people. So there you go. Good question here. Will DV 2025 2NLs be sent, sir? Well, again, I posted a video this week that explains my theory, and it's only a theory, on why the DV 2025 2NLs are so delayed, and they are very delayed. We could probably see the new visa bulletin being published this coming week. Almost certainly we'll see it published this week, right? And we haven't had any of the scheduled appointments from the last visa bulletin sent out yet. Lots of people have been scheduled. They already know that they're scheduled in October because they've emailed KCC and been told so. But nobody, as far as I'm aware, has had the actual 2NL. So they clearly have some sort of technical problem. I've speculated about that technical problem in the video I published this week. Speculated what the nature of that was. But it's clear that they've got some problem. Whether I'm right about my speculation or not, I don't know. But they clearly have a problem because they should have sent the 2NLs by now. So is it really a big problem? Not really. Look, we're in month 1 of 12 months. So if there's a glitch at the beginning of the month, beginning of 12 months, who cares, right? It doesn't matter. Nobody needs to get their knickers in a twist about this. If you go to the interview and because they've told you it's on October 10th or something, you only need to find the time of day when you need to attend the interview. Not a big deal. You can contact the embassy for that. And yes, you may not have a chance to have your medical completed in time. Well, okay, you'll follow up after the interview. It's not a problem, right? So chill out. Everyone relax. Nothing. The world is not ending. The sky is not falling. You'll be fine. And if worst comes to worst, you'll be a little bit delayed. No big deal. Okay. Silly Joe here, got my visa. Thanks, Brit, for guidance. You're welcome, Joe. You're not silly, I'm sure. Yeah, 52K in Addis, I already give up. Yeah, I mean, hopefully, Abraham, you understood months ago when I explained why 52K wouldn't work in Addis Ababa. I made that very, very clear in February and March and April and May. So I was shouting that from the rooftops. I think probably even in January. So hopefully you made a decision whether you wanted to move or not. You decided not to move, I guess, and therefore you lost your chance. You would have been interviewed if you'd have moved somewhere else, but you decided for whatever reason not to do that. Maybe it was financially difficult, I don't know, but you decided that. But at least I hope, what you were doing, right? Because I made it very, very clear that 52K would not get scheduled in Addis Ababa in DV 2024. I told people what to do. So I hope you understood that and decided not to take action because of whatever reason. Okay. Joe again. Imi asked how to change my host address at the port of entry. Since my host address changed and I was unable to change it at interview. Okay, so your last chance to change this is at the port of entry, as you're saying. You have to be insistent sometimes with the Border Patrol officer to make sure that address is updated, because if it isn't updated, you can't change it after you've entered the country and when you've passed through the port of entry. Your social security number and green card will be sent to that address that was wrong on your DS-260. So you must bring that up at the airport when you're going through CBP. Be firm about it. Sometimes I've heard stories that Border Patrol agents have said, "Oh, don't worry, you can change your address online." Be insistent. Say, "No, I want to change it now," because your social security number, which is much more important, frankly, than the green card, your social security number won't be updated by your online change of address, right? So you definitely need to change that address at the airport, and you just bring it up with the Border Patrol agent, okay? Okay. 2025 1K, my case is current for interview. There's no 2NL. Yep, I published a video about it, explaining my thoughts about it this week. Please go and watch that, Ahmed. Talked about 24 already. 2024 AOS here. Did bio on August 23rd. That's good. Still waiting for interview in NYC. Fingers crossed. What you find is, for whatever reason, I've never quite understood why they do this. The field officers tend to delay the interviews until into September. My own process, a DV lottery process back in 2014, I was eligible for interview in June, and I know the process, right? I know the process very well. And they delayed me, till September 2nd, I think it was. I actually had my interview. There was absolutely no justification for that. But what they did was they had other people that became current and were eligible for their interviews at that field office in June and July and August and so on. And they did lots of interviews at the same time, I think on the same day. There were several other cases interviewed the same day as me. Very unfair to make me wait that way. Risked my case, frankly, but that's what we do. So you'll probably get your interview notification very soon, I would have thought. And fingers crossed, it should work out for you. But good luck. Touch wood. Any news on Liberia DV lottery 25? No news. We don't have any data, by the way, for DV 2025. We can't get the SEAC data that tells us how many interviews are scheduled, although no 2NLs are sent out. But we can't have very much information until then. The only information we'll have is sort of feedback we hear within the community. That's it, until January. So we'll see. If the green card is sent to the wrong address and you don't get it, what happens next? What can one do? Just asking. It's a pain in the ass. You don't want to deal with that, Joe. You have to contact USCIS. They decide whether they think it's your fault or their fault. If it was your fault, you may have to pay a big fee, $550, I think it is, to get a replacement card. So you don't want to go through that. Make sure you speak to the CBP officer. Okay. What do the stars on immigrant visa mean? I got 2 stars on my immigrant visa. It's just that there's a very, very special surprise waiting for you when you get to America. Some people only get 1 star and some people get 2 stars. And if you're really, really lucky, you get 3 stars. I'm being silly. The stars don't mean anything. They're filling space. That's all. They're just, if you've ever imagined how forgers could work, if they see a space, they will fill it with another character to change numbers and things, right? So in order to stop that, they print the asterisk there just as a filler, right? So don't worry about it. It's fine. What made EU jump from 30 to 50K visa bulletin? And do you think it would happen next year as well? I'm 38K for 25. Okay, couple of things here. First of all, the jump from 30 to 50K wasn't really justified at all. There were a few embassies that decided they did have the capacity to interview right up to that level. But there were many embassies in the EU and other places that couldn't take all the cases that had been made current. And as the declaration that we got, and I posted this week, Curtis Morrison had obtained this declaration. As that declaration made clear, there were 35,000 people who were made current by that visa bulletin jump, making Africa current and Asia going to 27.5 and EU going to 50K. Those big jumps right on that final month were not justified because 35,000 people have not been scheduled, right? So, which is what I've been explaining to people. I try to explain to people, what the visa bulletin should have jumped to. I was predicting what it should have gone to. And it shouldn't have gone to 50K in EU. That was clearly ridiculous. But it did help people doing adjustment of status, and it did help some people at a few embassies. Vienna is one such example where they scheduled a lot of people right up to the 50K, I believe. So why did it happen? Well, it's kind of like a sort of plausible deniability is the word I would use of it. But, the KCC or the visa office said, hey, we made all these cases current. It's not our fault if the embassies didn't have the capacity, right? And that's exactly what their declaration says. Oh, if the embassies had the capacity, we could have scheduled 35,000 more people. What a good job we did here at KCC. Bullshit. It was just a silly dream that was completely pointless for most people, confusing for most people. It confused more people than it helped. Now I'm very happy for the people it helped, but it was not an honest thing, right? And it led to some clearly unfair things, like by making Africa and Asia current to high numbers. That meant that at some embassies in EU, for example, African and Asian cases were placed ahead of EU cases in EU embassies, right? And so, you'd have a situation where Africa got interviews up to 120,000 or something, and there's some poor schmuck in an EU embassy with a 33,000 number not able to get scheduled. It also meant there were a lot of people skipped in the last minute. Lots of unfairness, right? It was just not good. Would they do it again? I think they might do it again. I can only give the mathematical idea of where the visa bulletin should finish up. That doesn't mean that the visa office or KCC are going to follow that advice, right? So they could do the same thing again in 25. So it's possible. Last thing I'll say, though, for your particular case, your 38K number in 25 is higher than 38K was in 24. Okay, and we'll know that more precisely in January when we see the SEAC data. But I can already tell you that that's going to be the case. So EU had case numbers up to 65,000 in DV 2024, and cases up to 50,000 went current. But that means cases between 50 and 65, and there were cases like that, did not get current, right? You're 38K, but you're 38K not out of 65. You're 38K out of about 40 something, right? You're very close to the top. So your equivalent number in DV 2024 would have been something like probably 55,000, right? Your 38K in 25 is like 55K in 24, right? So you're in trouble. You are at risk. There's no doubt. Will it work out for you? It might do. I don't know. But there are too many people selected, and we think the highest case number in Europe is probably in the low 40s. And so you're very close to the top, to the highest number. So don't make any plans. Don't tell a bunch of people you've won the lottery. Don't make plans about quitting a job or selling a car or anything like that. You'll have to wait and see. We won't know until the end. You won't know your fate until July of next year. That's even though I'll be able to sort of give you numeric precision, I can't tell you what will happen in the final instance, right? So you will be, I'm afraid, and it's probably one of the worst things that can happen, you will be forced to wait until July of next year, because there's going to be no way that anyone can tell you with 100% certainty what's going to happen. Okay. Okay. What do you think Bangkok when it comes to embassy? Okay. So some embassies use the I-134. I don't know about Bangkok. What I think about Bangkok, it's not a big enough embassy in terms of DV lottery for me to have an opinion. So yeah, sorry, Ahmed, can't tell you. KDU embassy has increased visa slots more for student visas. Yeah, I've heard this, and they are doing it on a monthly basis. Will that affect for DV visas, and how much chances do I have for 2025 AS 10,600? I don't know the numbers yet for AS in DV 2025. I don't know how close to the top your number is, so I can't tell you about your chances for your number. I had heard about the increase in student visas. Will it affect the immigrant visa processing? I don't really know. I mean, it could do, but I don't know for sure. So I'm afraid you're going to have to wait at least until January to know more about your number, and you'll be able to see where you are, relatively speaking, within the number range. Okay. What about those who are in administrative processing since February? Now, you don't mean administrative processing in terms of the AP slot. You mean 221G, which used to be called administrative processing, and many of us still refer to it as that, right? But it's 221G. It is possible that cases that went into 221G in February, January, December will get cleared, right? I can't predict what will happen in your particular case. I know nothing about your case, but it is possible that some cases will clear. Okay, so good luck. Finally have my interview on Thursday. Cool. Do I need to travel as soon as the fiscal year ends, or I can wait and prepare and leave October? Yeah, some people get confused with this 30th of September deadline. That's the deadline for visa issuance or approval, I should even say. So it is possible for people to be interviewed on the 30th of September and be approved on the 30th of September, but their visa is not printed until the 2nd or 3rd or 4th of October. That's technically possible. It is not required that you travel before the 30th of September. That is not the deadline for traveling. That's only the deadline for visa issuance, essentially, or approval. So you'll be able to travel if you interview this week, or even someone who interviews on the 29th or 30th of September. They can get their visa, and then they'll have some months in order to travel to the USA. The actual time that you'll have is 6 months from the date of your medical. So you've probably already had your medical. When you get your visa, it'll have an expiry date on it, a validity date or expiry date. and that will be based on your medical date plus 6 months. That's how it works. Okay. Is it possible for a second draw for 2025? No, I've already said it's not going to happen. The reason is we've already got too many people. Why would you even want to be selected in a second draw in 2025? They've already got 130,000 people. They've only got 55,000 visas, right? They've already selected far too many people, and people are going to lose out already. People are going to be left without a visa. So why would you want to be selected to go through the curse, frankly, of waiting all of that time simply to be told no, you're not going to get an interview, let alone a visa, right? No, there is no more chance of a second draw in DV 2025. It's only in years where they select a very low number to start with, and by a low number I mean 80 or 85,000, 90,000 perhaps. They might add some extra people, but not when they've selected 130,000 to start with, which is what we've got. Okay. Just in case says, I'm the best. I love this name. Just in case, I think it's awesome. I saw you were on, was it? I watched some of Curtis's live session the other day. And I always love a chuckle. And I saw you were asking questions, so I know you're a big fan of Curtis as well. But anyway, thank you. Ahmed, hi sir, madam. I've won the DV lottery for 2025. My case number is, you don't need to give the precise case number, but anyway, 2025 AS 3963. Also filled my DS 260 form. When will I be called upon for interview? Well, your number is very high. Normally, by the way, when you do, oh no, it's an AS number, not an SA number. It's a pretty low number actually. So your Asia 39XX, right? That's how you should write that number, 39XX. You don't need to give the precise number. It's not a big deal, but you don't need to give that. And that will probably be interviewed, I would have thought, maybe this year, maybe in 24, might be early next year. You'll have to wait and see, and it partly depends on your embassy, of course. Okay. Can give me tips to do after they give me yellow paper AP. Just do everything they tell you to do. That's the only tip. I was given a white form. See, this is the problem. In one embassy, they give you a yellow paper. In another embassy, for the same reason, they give you a white paper. In other embassies, they could give you a green paper. Who knows? The color of the paper isn't important, people. It just isn't. But I was given a white form for additional documents, but my case continued to show ready even after the interview. Case status was last updated by the 6th of September, still showing ready. Yeah, so as I was showing those ready numbers earlier, 12,400 numbers. Bearing in mind, there are some people in that number who have been interviewed, such as your case, and the embassy was just too lazy, frankly, to update it to 221G. So, so that ready number is a bit misleading for a couple of reasons, and your case is one of the reasons. It doesn't matter that they haven't updated your case. It doesn't mean anything particularly about your case, doesn't signify anything. So just relax, be patient, and wait for them to finish your 221G, and hopefully that will happen quickly. Okay. Yerevan should act quickly. I believe more than 100 Americans were affected by that error. Which error? The one that happened at the end of 24. Sorry, and I said Americans, and I meant Armenians. I think you're probably right. I think probably over 100 Armenians were badly affected by what happened with the scheduling, but they're not going to fix it. They're just not. They're clearly just not going to fix it. So it's very frustrating to me, but that's the reality, I'm afraid. I need family visa. I don't talk about family visas. I don't know anything about those. I'm not a lawyer. I talk about DV lottery because I went through the DV lottery process about 10 or 11 years ago, 12 years ago or something. And so So that's where my skills are. That's all I do. I'm not generally speaking a lawyer. If you need to speak to a lawyer, go speak to a lawyer. Okay. Let's see. My wife gave birth after WW after WW. Blah, blah. I don't know what that means. Gave birth after WW had submitted our DS260 form. Any advice? DV 2025 AF5K Abu Dhabi. You have to, if your wife is given birth after you've submitted the DS260, you've had a significant life event, and you have to unlock your DS260 to update it, because you now have that child. So both you and your wife have to unlock your DS260s and add the child to that. And of course, you want the child to go with you, which means you need to create a DS260 for your child as well. Okay, don't wait. Don't delay your case later because you think you're going to delay your case by unlocking. That's stupid, frankly. So don't wait. Do that immediately. Ask to unlock. They may already say you're too late to unlock, in which case you'll have to deal with it with the embassy. But if you can unlock and add the baby now, do that now. Okay, much smarter. Why does the case keep showing ready even after the interview? Yeah, just talked about that. Is it possible for a second draw? No, talked about that. The question is, my sister and husband will be my host. Do I need an affidavit of support from them, Accra Embassy, Ghana? It wouldn't harm, right? It doesn't harm to have an I-134 prepared and ready just in case the consular officer asks for it. A lot of the trick of getting approved at the interview here is by being properly prepared. Some of you are wandering into the interviews without being prepared properly, and I just don't understand why you would do that. Prepare for every question, right? Now, it doesn't mean you practice your answers, which some people say, oh, what should my answer be when they ask this? And my answer to that question is always, it's your answer. It's not the answer I'm going to give you. It's not my answer. It's your own answer. It's an honest answer. But in terms of documents, you should prepare all of the documents that you think you might be asked for. So that's all of the standard documents that are listed, and then some documents that are not listed, including things like financial situation or an I-134. Just have it there. And therefore, by having those additional documents available, you can present that in the interview. If they ask you something, they say, well, how are you going to support yourself? And you pull out of your folder an I-134 from your family member that says, well, they're going to support me. Brilliant. Then you won't get 221G. You'll get approved nice and fast, right? So prepare properly for your interview. Don't worry about whether that embassy or this embassy normally asks for that form or not. Just get the forms that you think you might be asked for. Okay. Okay. Will it be the turn of this digit? 2024. Okay. Again, if you're a 2024 case and you haven't got your interview already, you're probably not going to get your interview. 2022 winner here from OC. Followed to the world, to the word. Oh, my dyslexia is horrendous this morning. Followed to the word everything from Simon. Still like to come and hear his updates. Now living in LA. That's awesome. Thank you. Thanks for stopping by and that update. I'm considering moving to Southern California myself, but we'll see. Probably Carlsbad, but anyway, we'll see. Hi, Simon. Oh, Isaac keeps asking that second draw question. I've answered that, Isaac. 22 winner in New York. Still addicted to the videos. Thank you, Martin. Why do people get addicted? I don't know. There's something about my British sense of humor that I suppose some people like, but other people just find me insulting and rude. Oh well. I cry about that at night time. Oh, people think I'm rude. Hi, Simon. I am a DV winner 2024 from Indonesia, now living in New Jersey. Thank you for your videos. Oh, I've got a lot of those sorts of updates this morning. That's lovely. 31K 24. Any hope? No. Sorry to be so blunt, but that's the reality. Isaac's still asking his question, And Eric, thankfully, is answering Isaac. Thank you, Eric. Huge respect. 8K Asia, Nepal. Is there hope for 2025? 8K in Nepal must be pretty safe, right? So yeah, you've got a good chance there. We'll see the data in January, but just as a guess, it's probably going to be okay. Mustafa, do you think visas will be available up to 20th September in your prediction? I'm glad you've asked this because I did want to make this a little bit clear. So I'm now tracking on a daily basis how many visas are being issued. 47,250 is the number right now, right? Plus some number of adjustment of status cases, but we'll put those AOS cases aside for a moment. This week they issued over 2,500 visas in a week, nearly 2,600, I think it was. So the pace this past week was pretty high. If they were to do 2 more weeks like that, that would be 5,000 more visas issued, right? And that's easily possible from the number of people scheduled for interview and from the 221G cases. So if they issue 5,000 more, we'll be at 52,250, about that, yeah, 52,250 in 2 weeks' time. And that's starting to get a bit close to the numbers. And 2 weeks' time, by the way, would be what, the 21st. So that's roughly where we'll be. So I think the 20th of September, let me just look at the calendar here. I think the 20th of September is probably safe, right? But after that point, if there is any danger of an early termination of the program, it would probably come in that sort of next week to 2 weeks after that point, or week and a half after that point. So I think you'll probably be okay on the 20th. But here's the important bit, and the reason I'm laboring this point. Make damn sure you are properly prepared for your interview. Please don't screw it up. Because if you go into an interview on the 20th of September and you're missing some document and it causes your case to be put on 221G, basically you'll lose your green card because you didn't prepare properly, right? Either visas will be exhausted, or it could even be that you're missing a document, you provide it maybe the next day or something, and the embassy at that time of year is just so busy they don't get to it for a few days, and maybe time just runs out, right? So for goodness sake, the one piece of advice is don't worry so much about the date on the calendar, but do worry about your preparation. Read all of the instructions properly, back to front. You should know those back to front. You shouldn't be asking me questions about the instructions, right? You should know what police certificates you should have. You should know all the documents that you should have. You should have photocopies of important documents. You should have translations of documents in languages other than the official language of that embassy or English. All of these standard things that you'll have read in the instructions, make sure you've paid attention so that you're not missing anything. Go with an I-134, preferably. It doesn't matter that that's not listed as one of the documents that is needed in most embassies. Just go with that, right? Or at least bank statements. Go with your CV/resume, right? So that you can show your career details. Properly prepared, right? That means all the documents you need and some documents that you may need, right? That you might need, okay? Make sure you're properly prepared, please. Don't screw it up. Good luck for the 20th, but don't screw it up. I'll be cross with you if you screw it up, right? But yeah, 2 weeks to go. You've got plenty of time to organize all the documents and make them nice and easy, okay? And Boris is saying you're on the 221G. Oh yeah, we talked about that one already. Okay, 2025 AS 5000 range, Ankara. I used the same photo in the DD lottery, which I used in another application, student visa. I heard in the comments that there's a chance of denial. The photo was 1 year old. Okay, so you heard in the comments that there was a chance of denial, but you didn't read the bloody instructions that say don't use a photo that's more than 6 months old, right? And they know that your photo is more than 6 months old because you've used it a year earlier in another visa application. that was a stupid thing to do. Now, will it get you denied? Probably not, right? It probably won't cause denial, but it was a stupid thing to do. You know, read the instructions are not just there for a giggle. But, you know, I don't know. I don't understand why people don't follow the instructions. It's a pretty important thing. It's a very, I know when you're doing the DV lottery entry, it seems like, okay, not such a big deal. I'll just do this for a giggle. But it's such a shame when people don't pay attention in that step of the process, and then later they lose their green cards because they didn't pay attention to the instructions. Simple thing to read the instructions. Will it cause you a denial? Probably not, right? I rarely hear of denials for this sort of case. It can happen, but it's only from a very, very picky CEO that would deny that. Okay, generally speaking, they won't. Fingers crossed for you. But now you're just going to be a bit more stressed where you didn't need to be stressed. Mohammed got his visa. Congratulations, Mohammed. What do you think why Tirana's embassy in Albania did not give any to NL since 12th of August? I don't know. Oh, since 12th of August 24? Well, I mean, no embassies have given any to NL since then, right? I mean, it's just that's not surprising. That's very normal. The July, the end of July, the first few days of August are normally the limit of when we see to NLs, right? So not a surprise really. Will they require a passport for DV 2026? No, they won't. The instructions for DV 2026 are not published yet, but I do know that they didn't do the steps that they would have to take to require the passport. They didn't do that in time, and so no, you won't need a passport to enter DV 2026. Okay. What happens when a DV winner with relatively high case number waiting for interview enter the DV lottery in subsequent year? Any consequences? None at all. Everybody can enter the lottery. I've entered the lottery after I got my green card. In fact, I think I entered it after I became a citizen. So anybody can enter the lottery. There's no harm in that, and it won't affect your current win or anything else, right? Just go ahead and enter. I'm from Turkmenistan. I've won lottery with my family, but till now I've not called the interview. My case number is 33870. Would you please explain the reason why now? Strange World, it's a shame you haven't told me your region or year. I'm going to assume, I know you're saying Turkmenistan, it gives me a clue, but you should always put your region there. You could be an Africa number, which would be a mistake in your case, but you should tell me your year and region with the number. You're probably a DV 2024, and if you haven't been scheduled already, then unfortunately you're not going to get scheduled, and it's going to be over for you. So sorry about that. But if you're not 24, perhaps you can ask your question again. Okay, Emilio soy cubano. ¿Por dónde va la procesa? ¿Por dónde? You do it on the web. Perhaps my Spanish is letting me down there. Where will you do the process? Okay, so Havana is doing interviews now, so you'll do it there, right? Great to see you back live here. Yeah, I'm alive. That's the best thing. 35K. I'm planning to marry. Can I add my wife? Yes. Got a problem of odd. What? Of add DS260. No problem. Get married and add your wife. As long as this marriage isn't fraudulent, right? If you and you've just decided to get married to someone so you can get an extra green card. As long as that's not the case, you can get married and add the spouse. You should do. Particularly if you can show that there was a relationship before you entered the lottery or before you won, then it's a very safe thing to do. Okay, go ahead and do it. Okay. I'm scrolling down. IOM made us lose our chances to put one amongst the family on hold. Oh, IOM sucks sometimes, really suck. One of the few organizations in the world that just, pisses me off because they think they're in control. Now, from what you're saying, you probably mean that someone in your family tested positive for TB, or they wanted to do the tests, and there isn't enough time to do the process. To be perfectly honest, that's not an IOM problem. That's a problem anywhere. But IOM still suck. They do some pretty crappy things, thinking that they run the process that they're really not in charge of running. So anyway, but yeah, it's probably that. It's probably TB, right? Now, if that person was not the principal selectee, then the rest of you can go ahead. And IOM probably won't make that clear to you, but you could go ahead, and then you could sponsor that person with the TB hold later. But it will take years to bring that person, and maybe if that's a child or something, maybe you don't want to be separated for all that time, those years, which is understandable. Then you would probably all stay back. So yeah, I'm sorry about that. Hi Simon, I've mistakenly kept single in original DV form, and I've legally divorced paper and entered divorce in the DS260 form. Will that affect the second letter? It won't affect your second letter because KCC don't adjudicate cases ever. They never would say, okay, you're not, we can see that you've got a mistake in your form, and therefore we're not going to schedule you. You will still get scheduled. However, you have some risk of denial at the interview. Now, the net effect of being divorced or being single is the same. There's no other person that was entitled or should have been listed on your form. And so I would say that more often than not, a CO would forgive that mistake at the interview, right? They don't have to disqualify you in that case. But it is technically possible that they could disqualify you, and you need to understand that and the risk about that, okay? So, but if it were me, if it were my case, I would attend the interview. I would risk the money because I would hope that a CO would not disqualify me for that mistake. It's the same effect, right? It's not the same when you say you're single and you're actually married, because there is somebody who is supposed to be listed on your form. That person was entitled to be on your form and should therefore have been on your form. But if you were divorced and you said single, it's really no difference in the effect, okay? I'm a DV25 winner, AF 4600. I mailed KCC after watching the video, got their response, my case is current. I will receive mail notification for the interview. I was not given a date. Right, so what they're saying is your current, the letter that you got or the email that you got says the words current for interview processing. That means your number is current, but also it means that your DS260 is processed. However, there's two reasons why you haven't been scheduled. One of two reasons. Number one could be the embassy didn't have enough capacity, and therefore didn't get to your case number. That's possible. So let's say there were 50 people under your case number that needed to be scheduled, and the embassy only scheduled or accepted 20 cases, right? So they wouldn't have got to you. That's one possible reason. The other possible reason is that your DS260 was processed. When you asked about it now, it's processed, but it was processed after the beginning of August. And if you weren't processed before the beginning of August, before the first few days of August, then they wouldn't have taken you into that month's scheduling. And so that's, you're processed, but you're processed a little bit late. All that will happen in that scenario is that you'll be scheduled the following month, right? You'll get a November interview. Now, again, it depends on which embassy you're at and how much capacity they got, but you'll probably get a November interview since you are now in the process status and current. Okay. Kigali, question about Kigali. From May until now, Kigali embassy didn't send again the journals. Why? I don't know specifically why they didn't. Some people asked to interview them, they're crying. You know why? No, I don't know why. It's horrible, but I don't know why they did it. and there are several embassies that did something similar. So, yeah, it sucks. Okay, I'm green card holder, have been in USA 5 years now. I want to apply for naturalization N400, but I have 3 collections from Spectrum, T-Mobile, and CheckSmart. Will it affect my application? Firstly, I don't do sort of advice outside of DV lottery, so I don't really know. But let me just give you some one-on-one advice. Go clear up these collections. It is not a good way to live in America to get into debts and not pay your debts, etc. It ruins your credit score, right? Now, Spectrum, T-Mobile, and CheckSmart, whatever amount of money those things are, go clear them up, right? Because that's going to affect your ability to buy a house and do all sorts of other things. But will it affect your citizenship application? I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't think so. I don't think they care about your credit score. They do care if you filed your taxes on time, and whether you've broken any laws. But not paying bills is not breaking laws, but it's still a stupid thing to do. Okay, so go and sort those things out. Okay, good luck with that. 2025 EU 22K. Just found out that I have a tumor in my testicle. Sorry about that. That's making me feel uncomfortable. Having the testicle removed this month. Good for you. I just got an ingrowing toenail removed. It's not quite as serious as what you're going through. Must have mentioned it at the interview if I'm cured of it, not mentioned in DS260. Well, okay, it's not at the interview, it would be at the medical. I mean, you don't sit there and discuss your testicles in a visa interview, frankly. You discuss that sort of information either with me on the internet so that everyone can hear, or preferably with your own doctor, right? Or with the physician, the panel interview physician. If they say no, if they don't ask any question about recent medical history or anything like that, then you don't need to offer it. But they will probably ask about recent medical history, and for goodness sake, do mention that. But the fact that you're having that tumor removed, is not a problem. And frankly, even if you were, and I'm sorry, this is a bit cruel, but even if you were riddled from top to toe with cancer, that still wouldn't get you denied at the interview, because that's not a public charge. It's not a public health concern. You having a tumor in your testicle affects no one else. It's not like someone can sit next to you on the bus and catch the same thing, right? And that's all they're interested in the medicals. They're interested in whether you're going to come to America and spread some sort of disease that Americans will then catch. And that's not the case with your particular condition. So don't worry about it. I mean, do worry about it, have it taken care of, and good luck with that. But don't worry about that affecting your DV lottery process. It won't cause you problems. But do be honest with the doctor. Always be honest. Always be honest with the doctor and the CO. But the CO is not going to ask you about your testicle. Okay, the doctor might. All right. Okay. My name is Abdurrazak Ashur. Abdurrazak Ashur. Okay, I've mangled that name. I'm sorry about that. I had the interview September 3rd. So my question is, does the USA Embassy accept original scanned document, for example, if I send to the email? Some documents can be sent through email, like the I-134 and supporting documents that can be sent through email. So yeah, if they've asked you for a follow-up document, you can email that to them. Okay. Okay, let me just take one or two more questions here. I misarranged my middle name to surname, so I updated in the DS260. What should I do at the embassy? Should I request to correct it before swearing? Give me guiding how. Okay, so if you corrected it in your DS260, then you've done all you need to do. So that's the main thing. Your DS260 has to have the correct legal name. As long as you've done that, you're fine. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Okay. I get interview 4th September. Give to me approved, but up to now my case is administrative processing, not approved. Okay, so if it says the words administrative processing, it simply means that they're printing your visa. Relax, wait, okay, you'll be fine. Good luck with that. What's the chance to get the DV visa after they put in administrative process? You have a chance. I don't know your case in particular, so I can't tell you what the case is for your, what the chances are for your particular case. But there are plenty of people who go into 221G and then finally get issued, well over 50%. So you've got a pretty good chance. Okay. Okay. Let's see. I mean, 2025 winner with case number E30,000 something from Yerevan. Would you suggest to change the embassy to another European embassy? Yes, I would, to be honest. I don't trust Yerevan at the moment. It's one of the embassies I think is a bit risky. So yes, I would suggest if you have family members that live in another European country and you can use their address to live there, yeah, go ahead and move there. Update your DS260 with that address and move there. Now, I wouldn't do that now. I would wait, if I were you, until your number was closer to being current. Because if you do that right now, you're creating history, which you then have to support by, proof that you're living there and that sort of thing. But so I would wait for a little bit, but don't wait until you're current. You need to make that change before you become current, okay? But you're not going to be current until probably well into 25, probably summer of 25 before your case number is current, okay? Will the delay in issuing 2NL have a significant effect on the 2025 visa issuance? It depends how long the delay continues for, right? I can't tell you when they're going to fix it. I would be amazed if if this problem continues another month. That would really surprise me, but it's possible, right? Would that cause a problem? No, that wouldn't cause a problem. Only if this problem continued for 6 or 8 months and they couldn't send 2NLs, then that would be a problem. But no, October, November, December, they're not normally big months. They're not normally large months of issuance. So we're not really losing out very much. They can easily catch up from this delay. Okay. I think we'll call that a day. Thanks for joining me today. As I started off at the beginning, please do subscribe to the channel. Please give me a thumbs up and like on this video if you liked it. If you've got any questions that I didn't answer, apart from Isaac that kept asking me about the second draw, apart from Isaac, everyone else can go and ask their question on BritSimonSays.com. Okay, BritSimonSays.com. So go ahead and do that. All right, everybody. Thanks then. Bye-bye.